So, hi, this is Robyn Locke, and this is my first multi-streaming, well, second because I did one earlier today, but it was just a test. So, this is my first official multi-streaming event. And it's streaming to Facebook and to YouTube. And welcome if you're happening to see me. Hopefully, I'm talking to someone or someone's. But this is in advance of a book launch that is occurring tomorrow. And so I've been working with a good friend named Prudence, and she's with All Things Possible. And she's going to join me in a few minutes so that we can do this little event together and make it a bit more fun rather than me just talking. But please feel free to comment and to engage the chat because I'd love to see your comments and questions. And that would be awesome. But this is all about finding your purpose. And your purpose is a bigger thing than you might imagine. It was bigger than I realized it to be. And so I welcome you to explore what your purpose might be. And so let me bring Prudence on. Prudence, you ready?
I'm ready.
There we go. I did it successfully because it said remove, and I was worried I was going to add you, but not really add you. I'd remove you.
You're a quick learner.
It's a miracle, I tell you. You just don't know. Oh my gosh. So
you've learned so much in just a few days and doing so good. Yeah.
It is like the inept tech person being put at the controls of the space station.
She does it all, you guys. She does it all. She writes, audits.
Oh my gosh.
Everything.
Well, yeah. YouTube is a challenge sometimes, but it's learning Final Cut and Logic Pro. And
yeah.
So I never thought I'd be doing any of these things. If you would have told me this 10 years ago, I would have laughed hysterically.
I know I wanted to be in this field. I just don't know the different parts I would be playing in it, Yeah.
Well, I never thought I'd be writing a book. So, much less a number of books. So
launching a book tomorrow. I know there's so much exciting stuff. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad to be a part of this with you. And I didn't realize that it was your first launch because I know you have other books out too. So
I've never launched them.
I know, this is so exciting for that.
This is like a major deal.
What is different with the launch than with you just putting out the other books? What feels different about this with the launch for you?
Oh, everything. I mean, it's letting people know that the books are there.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you have the tools and you have the mechanisms or gifts, but when no one knows that you've got them, then it's hard to build it, and word of mouth is tricky.
Yeah. When there's so many mouths going off nowadays.
There's so much distraction, and there's so much going on in the world today. So it makes it much more difficult for someone to connect to this. And the mind is so mischievous because the mind doesn't understand spiritual objectives. And so when I, or perhaps others, really try to focus in on spiritual activities, what it used to be in the beginning was distraction and diversion.
Yeah.
And you don't need to do that. That's a waste of time. You've got these 48,000 things to do on your checklist, and you must get those done.
And they're important.
Yeah. So once you recognize that the mind's never going to say, it's great that you want to meditate. It's great that you want to sit and contemplate. The mind is never going to say that.
Yeah.
It just isn't.
Yeah.
Unless it's like mimicking what it needs to do in order to distract you in a different way.
Or maybe, and I think it might get a little bit easier the more you consistently practice, like any other muscle. I think then it becomes a little bit easier. It doesn't become 100% because we're still a flesh human experiencing, but I feel it does become a little bit more.
Well, it does.
Yeah.
It's like a muscle. and
Yeah.
you have to exercise it. And when, you don't grow the muscle, then you just have to start somewhere. And that's why if you can start in a meditational practice or some practice that's good to kind of still the mind,
Yeah.
then you do it in a way that when you're conflicted or you're in a negative space, it's really tough at
Yes.
that point if you haven't established your practice.
Because of your habits. Yeah. 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 I want to ask you about the book. I know we're just going back and forth here too. What is something for people who are watching and like to entice them or intrigue them about the book? What is different about the message in this book than all the messages are going out right now, right? One of the things I've noticed and say is that a lot of us are saying the same things in different ways and different perspective, a different vibration. But what do you feel has been different about this message coming through for you?
It's mainly that we've been given a lot of messages, and a lot of the messages are regurgitations of the same message, just said in a different way. And
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing wrong with that because sometimes you get it one way better than you get it another way.
Mm-hmm.
But what's been given here are messages that we used to access and we used to know really intrinsically that we've kind of lost connection with. So it's an allowing and a remembering, and a lot of it is new that you maybe haven't heard before. And so what is advised is that sometimes you let the words kind of permeate and saturate, and you allow for that ability for that recall to kind of bubble up,
Yeah.
or you contemplatively engage with the words, because I know sometimes something is given and I've tried to release, and I have released a lot of beliefs, but sometimes there are beliefs that you don't know that you believe.
That's
And then all
true.
of a sudden something will come up and it's just a slight little variant, and I'll go, now that just doesn't sound right. I must have gotten that wrong. It must not be that way. It must be another way. It must be the way that I knew before.
Yeah.
And I step away from it, and then I come back and I'll read the words again, and my perspective will have shifted because I'm in an allowing space
Yeah.
to receive more. And I'll go back and I'll reread the words and I'll go, oh, yeah, from this perspective, I
So
understand. I see. I get it. And
it
that's the
sounds
way
like
a
it's a
lot of this
level.
is.
Yeah,
Pardon?
sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I said it sounds like it's a clarification on another level again to that.
It's almost it's that alignment. We
Yeah.
talked about that the other day.
Yeah.
It's that ability for the alignment to have an opportunity. It's kind of like you're going like this, and then all of a sudden you're able to go like this,
Click.
and you
Yeah.
can connect, right,
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
So it's just really that ability to really pause and just recognize that I'll share things with people, and a lot of times they already know or they already have their practice, and sometimes there are things that we don't know, and even if we call it the same things, maybe the steps are different.
Yeah.
And so it's just that pausing and allowing and recognizing, because the mind always wants to be right. Ego wants to be right. It
Yeah.
doesn't want to know that it doesn't know anything. But what I know for sure is that I know so little.
Oh man. And every time you think, even yourself, you get to know, you realize, oh no, there's more. I heard Neil
Yeah,
Donald Walsh said that when I first started that. That was the book that broke for me. So there's always, for everyone on this journey I've met, there's usually a book or a movie um that came into that person's lives that helped them open up their awareness, right? And so I'm hoping that this is a tool also for a lot of people. Neil Donald Walsh's book was that for me. It made me
nice.
go, oh my god, right, there's more. And that was one of the verses that really caught me to want to read more. Was he said, he said, God, now that I have your attention, what would you like me to tell? And Neil Donald Walsh said he heard said, every time you think you know me, there's more. And I was like, oh my God, that's so true. Every time I think like I And I see other people too, where we feel like we know I'm close, I'm one with God, and God has given me direct message, and I understand. And then you realize another message comes, and you're like, oh my gosh, I really didn't know anything on that subject. It was like a little pin drop on that subject, and there's so much more to know. So, um, something in the book too that you think will expand on people's belief now, like kind of where we are collective? Is there something that you can share?
I guess I would say that we're in a mind game most of the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I think there's a recognition of that, but I don't know that there's the full recognition of what that really is, because the mind so controls everything that we do. We can be going on an errand and we see a store, and the mind will say, "Oh, we should stop there."
Yeah.
Or, "I think it's time for a cocktail." Or, "I'd like some ice cream,"
Yeah.
or whatever it is. And what's interesting to me, because the mind regulates the body and the body functions too. And what's interesting is that it suggests a lot of things that are adverse to the body that it harbors and that it controls, because ice cream isn't great and cocktails are maybe fun once in a while, but not in excess.
Right.
And so I find it interesting because it's that understanding that the mind never gives up. It's a 24/7. The body has to continue to pump blood and oxygen, and you have to continue to be able to walk and to talk and,
Yeah.
to do regular things within the day. If we had to regulate and do everything that the body does, we would never be able to do anything else, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it makes sense that the mind is that 24/7 navigator.
Yeah.
But what's happened over time is we've not wanted really that meek, small voice, which is that voice that connects us to that higher part of us, because it's not as fast. It
Yeah.
doesn't get to the heat of the matter quickly. It's not a knee jerk reactionary type of tool. And so over time, we've lost connection to that. And now we have to kind of pause and wait, or most have to pause and wait. Some get it more readily
Mm-hmm.
before they get that small, quiet, but more steadfast insight. Because the insights that the soul or that higher part of you gives are long-term solutions, whereas the mind gives you more of those knee-jerk, quick reactionary solutions, which really aren't solutions at all. And so a lot of what the elders give, because I get insights from the elders, and a lot of what they give is that is one of the most critical things in the advancement of those who are going through this journey.
Yeah.
It's critical that we get control of that. And they compare it to a computer, and they said it's like the computer programmer sitting and watching the computer tell the programmer what needs to be done and what it's going to do, while the programmer sits and watches the computer orchestrate what occurs.
Yeah.
So we've allowed something to happen, and had we had early training as children, we might have recognized that we needed to question some of those
Yeah.
things that come into our mind. You see kids really unhappy, and a lot of things happen in youth that are mental suggestions, that had they known that they are not those mental suggestions and they're not making those mental thoughts, they might make different choices, and they
I,
might gain control there a little bit quicker.
it really reminded me the whole time of what you're saying is that it's like it's kind of like when, especially at youth, we are on autopilot, right? It's like we're on this autopilot. You said something earlier that made me think of this analogy.
Mhm.
And at one point, once we become aware more now, so either some people stay on that and just follow that throughout until they leave the show. And some people recognize it and they want to adjust the direction of where they're going to now. And I think that's one of the One of the ways I think in the flesh to be able to do that is by slowing down the mind, right, where the ego is, so that we can bring in more spirit, and then we can kind of direct it a little bit more. Like we can't predict every outcome in life, but we can direct it more in the direction we want it to go, and kind of be more intentional of what we're experiencing instead of just on autopilot.
It's being consciously aware.
Yeah,
We're becoming more consciously aware when we start to move out like this and look down at the thoughts that we're thinking, and
yeah,
not look down at them, but looking upon them instead
yeah,
of engaging with them that it's us. It's almost monitoring and being aware of the thoughts that we keep.
yeah,
And so it's that sort of engagement. And had we gotten that sort of direction, perhaps earlier in our life, we'd make very different choices
yeah.
because we wouldn't do all the things that the mind suggests, you
Agreed.
know?
Yeah,
So I would think so to circle back around, that's one of the biggest things that is suggested is to gain that control, because until that control is really gained, because
yeah,
you can be in a beautiful day and the sun is shining and the birds are singing and the mind will suggest something that happened that was bad, and then keep
yes,
harping at it,
yes,
and all of a sudden that beautiful day is gone,
yeah.
and now it's this not so good day,
And because of
and then
your
the
mind. Yeah.
yeah.
It's happened. It's happened to me. Even about 2 months, I would tell my friend every morning when I wake up, I'm like, I don't know what happened. Like I woke up and my first thought is I'm glad to be up, and as soon as my feet, all of a sudden my mind just, and it was like, why dooms and glooms?
Well, and
But
what I'll say
I did
is
realize I had slowed down on my meditation, my consistency. I had a routine that I cut that off because I was doing this and doing that and doing that. And it took a while for me to realize, wait, something's not right. And it's usually when I have slacked off of my meditation. It really is.
so what I'll say is that the thing that you can kind of establish as a practice, and you may already be doing this, but is not even to worry about the meditational part, but as you're lying in bed and you're waking up, immediately set your intention on your heart space
Yeah.
and focus there. It's your intention and your attention. And
Yes.
then do your grounding,
Yeah.
and then do all the different steps just as you're lying in bed, so that you can do that practice that feels like a holy practice, where
Yeah.
you have candles or incense or whatever you feel aligned with to do in your practice. But
Yeah.
if you can just do it while you're lying in bed and
That's been my new
get
practice.
yeah, and get used to just, oh, I haven't done this, because what happens is that intention and your attention goes out, and now with law of attraction, you're now putting out that energy, and that energy then is returning full circle back to you, so your day is actually different than it would have been otherwise, because
Yeah.
now you're sending out something and you're getting that good energy back, instead of starting, that's why they say never go to bed angry
Yeah.
and never wake
Yeah.
up that way too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's the energy you're putting out before you go to sleep, and so it's going to harpoon you and boomerang back in the
I
morning.
learned that years ago too. Seriously, it was so important. I realized, first of all, the magic in morning routines, and that was very powerful. But
It
what
is.
made it more powerful was to realize the magic in night routines too,
Yeah.
because that really helped the momentum of the morning routine flow a
And
little
that just
bit
gave
more
me
differently.
chills.
Yeah,
Yeah, that you said
yeah,
that, and it's going to bed in gratitude.
yeah,
So if you can go and express all those things, even if if it was not the best day,
yeah.
even if you saw a beautiful flower or the
Something. There is
leaves turning
something.
outside. Yeah, there's
I'm
so
drinking
much.
water. Something. There's something.
Well, just the beauty that surrounds you, because you can always find beauty. I was at a bank one time and I was driving through the teller line, through
Yeah.
the drive-through, and there were all these beautiful flowers that were in bloom directly across from the teller. And I was looking and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's just incredible. So I got up to the window and I said, "Do you just marvel at the the beauty of the flower?" Because it was like a whole wall of flowers. "Do you just marvel at the beauty that you get to look out onto every day? I mean, that's just incredible. I've never seen such a floral display."
Yeah.
She she looked, she said, "You know, I never noticed that before."
And that's what it is.
And
Yeah.
I thought, "How could you not notice it? It's like a wall of flowers." I mean,
Yeah.
so we get so trapped in our mind
Yes.
and in our activity that if a miracle happened in front of you, would you,
Yes.
not you, but if a miracle
No.
happened in front of someone, would you even see it? Because we're so up here in all the thoughts that we're keeping.
Absolutely. I talk to people about that all the time. And especially when it's going on for a while and it's on and they're going on and it's days and it goes into week. And I'm like, listen, even if something good was to slap you in your face right now, you would not even recognize it or appreciate it because your mind is not in a space to appreciate anything right
Of
now.
allowing it to come in. So
Yeah.
in the Awaken book, one of the things that the elder said is if a 6 by 6 foot banner would drop from the sky,
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
would you be able to see what it says on it? And they said, now we're not saying that a 6 by 6 foot banner is going to come from the sky,
Yes.
but we're just saying,
Yeah.
would you see it? And you have to be conscious. That's why Eckhart Tolle is a great one for present moment awareness.
Yeah.
And he talks about being conscious in the moment. Well, we talk about it all the time. And the
Yes.
elders talk about it because if you're not in that present moment awareness,
Yes.
you miss
So
anything
much.
because you're so trapped up in here with all those thoughts, and you probably got a frown on your face, and
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
scowling. And
And that's
I
that whole energy that's flowing with you. And again, the nighttime routine can help. So when I would talk to someone who's stuck in this vibration, what I would recommend for them is at nighttime to the same thing. Just find something grateful to be for. And you can even whisper as you fall asleep, I do not want to feel, or I do not, it's not really a term I would recommend to say, but say, I wish to feel different, something you change it. Like I've
no, no,
said, I'm tired
wait,
of
wait, wait.
feeling like this source. I don't want to feel like this tomorrow. Please show me how to switch my vibration. Thank
No,
you
no,
so
no.
much for being, go ahead.
Can I stop you?
Sure.
Because because I would reframe it, I feel wonderful. I am so grateful for the wonderful way that I feel.
Yes.
And instead of doing the don'ts or don't want or any of that, get rid of
Yeah.
that and go for, now you're going to go, "Oh my gosh, I feel really great.
Yes.
Oh, I feel so grateful. My whole body is tingling." And so if you'll go into the state that you want without going to the state that you don't want.
Yes.
Do you see the difference?
That's what I said. Yes, I realized I wouldn't say I don't so much, but one of the things too, sometimes I notice that if you're in this loop for a while, it's really hard to jump from I'm so grateful. There's no way at the moment.
You
And
have to
so
fake it until you make
or
it.
and one of the things, and so I that's one of my things I've always said, and now I learn in order to heal that, to fake it, to make it, is to accept it. I feel like shit. I don't want to feel like that anymore. And so, and I start and I thank you, small thank yous just for my bed, my pillow, and that's it. If that's all I can say for tonight, then tomorrow you pick it up again. The next night, thank you for my food today I had. Thank you for my pillow. Thank you for my water. And you gradually build yourself up there to where you are in that feeling space. But one of the things you said too is as you start in that feeling space, it starts amplifying. You start really feeling grateful for whatever small things it is. It does become more and more bigger things too. And I am very aware of the I don't, but I do realize that sometimes I think to heal completely, I've faked it till I make it and realize, wait, I was been faking it. I didn't really face it. So sometimes it depends on what it was. I faced it within myself, not telling the whole world and telling everybody the story, but me one on one with God, with Source, and ask Source, help me to go small, general, because I can't even find the small little things to be happy for right now. And then I find that I'll get the little in like my pillow, or thank you for the AC blowing, or I'm cool tonight. I have a bed, I'm under a roof, and then I find and it amplifies and goes. So sometimes you can't jump from or if you're in that such a low vibration and a negative thought cycle, in order to get to a positive one, start slow, start small, and build yourself up.
It's whatever works for you,
Yeah,
right?
right, right. When
So
it
what
boils
I
down to
yeah,
it.
I jumped to something else, but yeah, it's whatever works for you.
Yeah, yeah. But I love that. Okay, so those are different little nuggets in your book, right? That I'm already started reading mines, but everybody can get theirs tomorrow. Where are they going to be able to get it again?
Amazon.
Oh yes, is that the only streaming platform? I mean, not streaming. The only platform at this moment they can get it from, correct?
I think they get automatically uploaded to some of the other platforms, but Amazon's the easiest and it's what's on my website right now. So
Okay.
all they have to do is go in tomorrow and look at the books. There's
Yeah.
actually 3 that are launching tomorrow, but the 2 main ones are Awaken and The Greater Purpose.
Okay. Yeah, we've been sharing it. It's all over the page. So if you guys are looking for the link to check it out, it's all over Advanced Energetic page on Facebook and on Instagram.
And I can put it in the comments too.
And you can put it in the comments here as well.
I can spell. Let's
Well,
see.
I'm excited for your launch party tomorrow. Um, is it going to be balloons and confetti?
No, no balloons, confetti, but it's gonna be another Facebook Live at 9 AM, so Eastern Time.
Right here on this page.
I guess,
Awesome.
yeah, I don't know what I'm doing well enough to tell you if it's on this page or not, but I think so, wherever.
Absolutely. So I seen this made it to the advanced page because before we jumped on, I went and shared it to a few different places. So you should be right back here again tomorrow. Invite other people to come check it out, see
Yeah, nice.
more, hear
Yeah,
more.
I think what I'm gonna do tomorrow is play some excerpts from the
Nice.
book, which
Yeah.
are easy to do, and they're on YouTube now.
Yes.
But it's just amazing because, the original purpose so The Greater Purpose is a 3-book trilogy that's all combined into 1 book,
Okay.
and the 2nd book in the trilogy is called The Original Purpose, and in The Original Purpose, it talks all about the transitory time or when you transition, when you leave this earth platform,
Yeah.
and it was interesting because the elders said at one point in that when we transition into embodiment, and they almost look at it like we look at transitioning out of the body, they look at it as transitioning into the body. And so I thought that was interesting to use it both ways,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
I can see
the
that.
the big thing in that book, or I thought the biggest thing, that I learned is that when you pass from this life and you move into that transitory time, that you don't know all in that next space. So often we believe that we kind of have gathered this ability to know all. And
Yes.
so when we make then decisions for our next embodiment, which is during that time, and that's a pretty healthy chapter, so it goes in depth on a lot of different levels. But when you are going into that planning time and you find that beliefs, which they share, also travel with you. So if you have beliefs that aren't exactly right and so, there's not the clarification when you get to that next phase, because universe says if you wanted to know more, you would have looked for more. And so it's almost a diminishment of your free will, where universe to say, well, what you believed wasn't exactly right and so.
Hmm.
And so rather than that, you're reinforced by those who anchor what you believed. So it's almost as if everything that you believed was true or correct.
Yeah.
And so what they said is that then you go and plan your next life using faulty material. They equated it to not having a full deck.
Hmm.
You can't, it's hard to have a straight.
Yeah.
when you don't have the full deck.
Yeah.
And so, they really stressed the importance of making sure that your beliefs are as they need to be, because so often our beliefs will get us so far and it's mostly true,
Yeah.
but there may be a little bit of it that isn't quite true.
Serving. Yeah, that's not serving.
And so it's that discernment of knowing and maybe even not knowing by surrendering. And there's a process in so I have a advanced energetics YouTube channel, and it's called Advanced Energetics. And within it, if you put in the search, because there's like, I think at this point there's a couple hundred videos. I don't know if they're all live yet, but we're getting close to that 200 mark. And if you'll put in the search beliefs or release beliefs, there's two different meditational videos there that one could do to release beliefs. And during both of these, it gives a anchoring verse that one can say, because when I did it years ago before I knew about the elders, and I was kind of just playing in the energy and trying to release beliefs because I knew everything that I believed. I didn't even know all the things that I believe, and I still find that I believe things that I didn't know that I believed. And so, it's a constant thing of release.
Yeah.
But when I did it, I didn't have that anchoring verse. And for about 4 months after I did it, I actually felt like I was not anchored. I felt like I was floating. I felt very unstable, not like emotionally unstable, but unstable of, I just felt really light and airy. I didn't feel like I had the weightiness of
Yeah.
this earth experience. I don't know how to describe it. And so I think that verse is very important. And they give it so that anytime that you feel like you're not anchored as you need to be, that you can use that verse as a means of stabilization, of grounding, which I really so appreciate, because I would have appreciated having that. But instead, I just kind of wandered around and was going, geez, I feel really lightheaded. It was almost like a little bit of a high,
Yeah.
but it felt like I was float walking.
Yeah.
And
I
it went
know.
on for a long time, and I don't recommend it. I mean, it wasn't like a euphoric kind of feeling. It was
Oh,
more of a flighty kind of
okay.
feeling,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. I
Yeah.
mean, it wasn't like I was, experiencing some sort. It was just different. So releasing beliefs is really critical, because everything is a belief system, and a belief system is self-limiting. Because if you believe this, you can't believe that. And if you believe you can't do something one way, which you can do anything any number of ways. But if you believe something can only be done one way, then that's a belief that could be released.
Yeah.
And so it's like this discovery of all the things, because we believe so many things. And it's not until we tell someone what we believe we can or can't do that we recognize we have a belief.
Yeah. True.
it's it's
Very
it's
true.
it's comical. So they always keep it light. And I did these, I have to share this. I did these audio, all the books are on Audible, or two of the books are on Audible right now. One's getting ready to go on Audible, and they've all been recorded. But now I need to tinker with them, and that can take months before they actually go up, onto
Yeah.
Amazon and Audible. But what was funny is I'd be recording and we'd get to this really serious part, and it was something that was really bad going on, or and they never talk about anything really bad, but they allude to these negative things. They don't really ever talk in negatives, but I knew what they were talking about.
Yeah.
And so I would get into their energy and I'd start to chuckle. and I would, and I in the recording go, no, I don't think it's a good time to chuckle. I don't think anyone listening to this is going to understand the chuckle. So I'd have to re-record it, and then I'd get a little bit further down, and I'd chuckle again. And I was like, no, No, I I just don't think this chuckling right now is a good idea. And then I'd start to screw up, I'd make a mistake and then I'd start to chuckle. I was like, they're gonna take me to the farm. And so and the other thing I'll say is so I smile all the time, but I smile all the time because at some point we'll want to bring the elders in our conversations.
Yes.
And when I keep my energy up, I can immediately connect. And so the connection, I don't want to ever be like this. I want to be like this.
Yeah.
And so I find that when I do these, I just smile all the time because I'm in their energy.
Yeah.
And their energy is
High vibes.
just beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful. Well, I'm looking forward to tomorrow's launch. I'll be at work, but I'll be jumping on to see and jumping on
yeah,
the
you'll be
video.
going, what are they doing now? They need to be more serious. this is
No,
this is a
I
serious
hope
thing.
it's fun and laughter, and so many people join in and hear and ask questions. I know you guys are open for questions and stuff tomorrow. Do you have an idea about how long you'll be on, or just gonna
Um,
go?
we're gonna go until we run out of steam, but I'm aiming for an hour. Just like
Okay.
tonight, we were aiming kind of for an hour. So,
Yeah.
we just see where it leads us and where the conversation goes, and
Yeah.
you know, um, we kind of take it from there.
Yeah. All right.
Are
That's
we good tonight, or do you want to continue on, or what's your thought?
I feel I'm good. If there's anything else that you want to expand on, I'm open for that as well.
No, well, no, I think we're good, and I think I'll just share that. I hope that y'all can join. Whoever's here tonight can join tomorrow. It's going to be at 9 Eastern time on this same channel.
Yeah.
And we're looking to kind of have some fun. And the launch is all day tomorrow. It's on the 2 books, Awaken, The Definitive Guide to Transformative Change, and then
Yeah.
The Greater Purpose, Awaken to Your Reason for Being. And it's funny when when the titles came up, I didn't even realize that both books had Awaken. One as a subtitle and one as the title.
Oh yes.
And
Yeah.
it's really I just feel like that's what
It was
is
both.
going on
Yeah.
with these books. I mean, it's all the buzzwords these days of transformation, it's actualization, it's realization, it's becoming consciously aware. It's living this life and seeing that there are different perspectives. Like this life doesn't need to be as heavy and as weighted as it feels
Yeah.
when we recognize that we have clear paths and clear choices. One thing I do want to say is that there's so many today that feel downtrodden because of all the things that are going on. And I know, and I honestly don't keep up with them all. So I'm a bad resource there. But I'll say that when you recognize that this life was meant to give you diversity so that you can see what is wanted and what is not wanted. So what I was told was years and years and years ago, probably before recorded time when there were other embodiments going on,
Mm-hmm.
that there was not the diversity and there was more of the oneness or the similarity for those who incarnated. And when you're coming into incarnation, so the reason for being in this space is to recognize an energy that you didn't quite understand when you were spiritual in form. And so you needed to take on this body, you needed to take on this life experience so that you could understand something that you couldn't understand when you couldn't feel your way to knowing what it was. And so this life is meant to be felt, number one, but it's meant to be understood. And so, in order to understand it fully, not only do you have to have the good, but you have to have the bad, and
Yeah.
you have to have the positive, and you have to have the negative. And so, what happened earlier was that many went out of embodiment when they had to experience, or the experience came to them to understand that converse or negative energy that was associated with what they wanted to understand. And you have to understand at that point that being was much more, and that new soul that came into embodiment was much more delicate and fragile because it had never experienced
Yeah.
this earth experience before. And so it didn't quite know what to expect. And so oftentimes it went out of embodiment when that negative aspect came up. And that's what happened with me. And it's in the first chapter of Awaken. And so what was amazing was that it was a gift. And the gift was to know the converse energy of what it was that that personality wanted to understand. And had she understood it at that time, she would have chuckled and been grateful. But instead, she made a different choice and she went out of embodiment. And so many others did the same thing. And so when we can see diversity and difference now much more clearly, it is truly a gift, because now we can more readily see, well, I don't like this, but I like that. Whereas if it's all vanilla, where it's all the same, where it's all pretty bland, it's very hard to make that discernment between what is wanted and what isn't wanted.
Yeah.
Now we have a very clear pathway
Mm-hmm.
of what is preferred and what is not preferred. And so
Okay.
that is the true intent of diversity, is to have the differing of understandings so that a more clear delineation can be made as to what is and is not of preference.
Yeah. I get that.
So that's that's it. And then I'll just add that your purpose is energy. It's not a thing. And you would never want to try to carry your profession with you into the afterlife, but you can take your energy and those things that you've discovered and your energetic gifts with you.
I believe. Yes. Beautiful.
So,
Thank you for the reminder. All right. It
so
has
that's
been
all I've got.
beautiful.
Yeah. So
I
this was fun.
appreciate it.
Thank you today. And we're going to do this every Wednesday
Yeah.
at 8 o'clock,
Yeah.
at least for this year. We'll see how that flows and goes. But
Yeah. Yeah. If anybody has any questions, they can come. Well, tomorrow, start off.
but then
Join
we'll
me
have next week.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll get to hear the recap of how it all went tomorrow
Yeah.
in the next chat. So this was fun. Well, thank you. This was
Thank you
great.
for having me also.
Well,
We will
it's a
talk
treat.
soon.
I'm grateful to have you as part of a
I know,
in
perfect
the
timing
duo in
again.
crime.
Yeah. I can't help but to think of the perfect timing, and so grateful for excuse me, one of my things lately, I have been, when I ask for assistance from God, angels, however you want to call them, and I get it, and it's to recognize and say, "Oh, you did help me. Thank you." To recognize that I am being assisted, that I am being directed, and so recognizing I'm grateful. Perfect timing for everything. So thank you again. You guys have a beautiful night. Happy Wednesday to everybody who's watching. Right, Wednesday, yes, and tomorrow Thursday.
Ditto. It's a
Join
ditto for me.
Robyn on Advanced Energetics, and you guys check out the book launch. We'll put the links, or the links are in the comments and all over the page, and so you have an option and an option, an opportunity to get the book yourself too. All right,
And they have the option to do it too.
and the option too. Good night, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Signing off.